Today we have huge 10 years and 5 years ILR rule updates, who will and who will not be affected by clarification. The very definition of what it means to settle in Britain is being redrawn, sparking a fierce political battle that could affect hundreds of thousands of lives. In a major speech at the Labour Party conference, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood is set to unveil a new, more demanding path to settlement. Before we get into the proposed changes, let's quickly recap what we're talking about. What is indefinite leave to remain, or ILR? Think of ILR as the UK's version of a green card. It's the crucial step that allows a migrant to be free from immigration time restrictions. Currently, most people who come to the UK on a work or family visa can apply for ILR after legally residing in the country for 5 continuous years. Once you have ILR, you have the right to live, work, and study here for as long as you like. You can also access public funds and benefits if you're eligible, and it's the main pathway to eventually applying for full British citizenship. For decades, this 5-year path has been the standard goal for those looking to build a permanent life in the UK. But that is all about to change. The new Labour government is signalling that the 5-year path is no longer sufficient. The core of their new philosophy is that permanent settlement is not a right to be automatically acquired, but a privilege that must be actively earned. At the Labour conference, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will detail a new framework designed to ensure migrants are contributing to society. The first and most significant change is a plan to double the standard qualifying period for ILR from 5 years to 10. This proposal was first floated in an immigration white paper back in May, and it represents a fundamental lengthening of the journey to settlement for most migrants. But it's not just about waiting longer. Labour is introducing a series of new, stringent conditions that applicants will have to meet. Let's break them down. First, a high standard of English will be required. The government's view is that after living in the UK for several years, migrants should be proficient in the language. Second, applicants must have a spotless criminal record. While minor offences like motoring tickets might be excluded, other crimes could lead to automatic disqualification or a penalty, forcing you to wait even longer to qualify. Third, you'll need to prove your economic contribution. This means being in work, making national insurance contributions, and, crucially, not having taken any benefits payments. It's unclear if having claimed benefits in the past would be an outright disqualification or simply another penalty, but the message is clear: self-sufficiency is paramount. And fourth, in a novel new requirement, migrants will have to demonstrate they are giving back to their communities, for example through volunteering. The government is essentially creating a system where you have to prove your integration and positive impact. However, there is a small carrot to go with this very large stick. The Home Secretary has indicated that some migrants, based on their exceptional contribution or skills, could be fast-tracked and granted settlement earlier than the new 10-year baseline. Conversely, those who are deemed to have made a lesser contribution could be denied ILR even after a decade and could face removal when their visa is up for renewal. A consultation on all these changes is set to be launched later this year. To understand the philosophy behind this tough but fair approach, it's helpful to look at the Home Secretary's own story. Shabana Mahmood is expected to speak personally about her parents' experience arriving in the UK from Kashmir. She will argue that the acceptance of migrants has always depended on their tangible contribution to their local communities. This personal history also informs her wider political outlook. She will talk about her childhood experiences working in her family's corner shop, where she was a victim of shoplifting. This, she says, has motivated her to crack down on street-level crime. As part of this, she is launching a Winter of Action scheme where police will partner with local businesses to tackle the recent rise in shoplifting and antisocial behaviour. This narrative connects the theme of contribution and rule following from immigration policy to domestic law and order. Now, these proposals are not happening in a political vacuum. Labour is keenly aware that it is trailing Reform UK in nationwide opinion polls, and this announcement is a key part of their strategy to take the fight directly to Nigel Farage on his signature issue. immigration. And the dividing line between the two parties could not be more clear. While Labour wants to make ILR harder to get, Reform UK wants to abolish it completely. Reform's plan is radical. They would scrap indefinite leave to remain altogether for non-EU nationals. In its place, migrants would be forced to reapply for a visa every 5 years, indefinitely. And in a truly explosive element of the policy, Reform has said this would apply retrospectively, meaning hundreds of thousands of people who already have permanent settled status would see it rescinded and would be forced to reapply under stricter new rules. This has triggered a furious response from the Labour government. In a series of interviews, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has labelled Reform's policy racist and immoral. He stated that while he is committed to removing illegal migrants, it is a completely different thing to target people who are here legally, working in hospitals and schools, and are part of the community. He warned that such a policy would rip this country apart. Chancellor Rachel Reeves echoed his comments, adding, "Those policies are racist and we will call them out." Reform UK has hit back hard against these accusations. Leader Nigel Farage told the Daily Express that Labour do not believe in border controls and dismissed the Prime Minister's comments as a desperate attack. Zia Youssef, Reform's policy chief, argued that people have perfectly legitimate concerns about immigration. He challenged the Prime Minister's rhetoric with a pointed question for the public. If somebody is voting for a policy that Starmer calls racist, what do you think Starmer thinks of you? Youssef was clear on his party's stance, stating that the UK should not fund benefits and welfare for foreign nationals. Reform's justification centres on what they call the Boris wave, the increase in migration that followed the post-Brexit rule changes under Boris Johnson. They argue that hundreds of thousands of these migrants will soon become eligible for ILR, placing a huge strain on public services, and claim their policy would save the taxpayer over £230 billion, a figure that has been heavily disputed as it was based on a withdrawn think tank estimate. This intense political battle goes beyond policy details. It's a fight over national identity. Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood will argue that her vision of fair migration and secure borders is essential for maintaining an open, generous, tolerant country. She is expected to warn that patriotism is in danger of twisting into a smaller, something more like ethno-nationalism. In a direct message to her own party members, many of whom may be uncomfortable with this tougher stance, she is expected to say, "You won't always like what I do." But she will issue a stark warning. If the Labour government does not succeed in controlling migration and crime, working people will turn away from them and seek solace in the false promises of Nigel Farage's party. So, what does this all mean for you? For migrants currently in the UK on a 5-year route to settlement, this creates a period of profound uncertainty. The key question is when these changes will come into force and whether they will apply to people already in the system. For anyone planning to move to the UK in the future, the message is that the goalposts for permanent settlement are moving significant. The path will be longer, more expensive, and will demand a much higher level of proven integration. And for those who already hold indefinite leave to remain, while Labour's policy does not affect you, Reform UK's rise in the polls represents a direct threat to your permanent status. The idea of revoking settled status, once unthinkable, is now a central policy of a major political party. The battle lines are drawn. On one side, Labour's vision of a 10-year contribution-based path to earn settlement. On the other, Reform UK's vision of a country with no permanent residency, only a cycle of temporary visas. The debate over who gets to call Britain home has never been more intense. Labour's new proposals mark a significant hardening of immigration rules, a move designed to win back voters from the populist right. But in doing so, they are setting the stage for a generational conflict over the future of migration in the UK. We want to hear from you. What do you think of Labour's plan to make migrants wait 10 years and prove their contribution? Is it a fair system for a modern Britain? Or do you side with Reform UK's more radical approach? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. This is a story we will be following closely. For all the latest developments and in-depth analysis, make sure you are subscribed to Visa News Daily and have clicked that notification bell so you don't miss an update. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next video.